Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Izuku. What if Izuku Midoriya become a great teacher? Movie 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends and also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out in the channel. So let's start the video. The rat was up to something. Seriously, sending her out into the mountains with the first years for extra training just because Izuku thought that they needed the training in the middle of summer was ruining all of her plans. Most notably her plan not to have a plan. At least the mountains got her out of the heat wave. Mostly out of it anyway. At least the hot spring had been amazing. Nemuri entered the singular room she was going to be sharing with UA's most recent and most interesting teacher. Izuku Midoriya. She hadn't spoken to him as much as she would have liked to. He showed up in a storm of paperwork and Nezu, cackling madly, was put in charge of some made-up class that was apparently absolutely amazing and he was every student's favorite teacher. She was supposed to be the cool young teacher that the students could open up to. Never mind that, she was the same age as some of the others. And now she was grumpy. Again. Still though, it was hard to be mad at him. Unlike the rest of them, he was a teacher first, even dressing the part with a dress shirt and slacks. The fact that he pulled off the look better than most models did also made him Nexa's favorite face for UA. Which was good. Aizawa made children cry. Izuku was sitting at a low table, bouncing his knee, while he looked over one of his notebooks, occasionally making a mark with his pencil. He was wearing casual clothes, just a pair of shorts that rode up past his knee and a tank top that showed off that he was fit. He was smart, good-looking, had a great personality, and was in shape. Was that the power of being quirkless? Maybe being just so close to unbearably perfect was his quirk. Cracking open one of the few beers she managed to smuggle up here, she sat down across from him and took a long sip of her usual evening beer. All the kids are in their rooms and are probably going to need to be told at least 2 more times to be quiet and go to bed before they actually sleep. So if you want to hit the bath, now's your chance. Oh, thanks Nemuri. They don't respect me. When it comes to discipline, I might be a bit too nice. Izuku laughed, placing his pen down and stretching in his seat. He looked at her can and raised an eyebrow. Where'd you get the beer? Smuggled it up here, she sighed, placing a hand on her cheek. I was hoping to find some of our students would try the same so I could confiscate it, but I guess first years don't really think about that. Why, you want one? Oh, no thanks, Izuku waved his hands in front of him, his glasses falling down just the slightest bit. I'm not really one for drinking, but please enjoy yourself. We do have a busy day tomorrow after all. Ah, and how's your lesson plan going then? I heard the only reason Nezu agreed to this was because you had a plan for all of the students. She dragged a finger around the rim of her drink and sighed. Why was it that she just couldn't hold a conversation with this guy? Wait. He was a guy, right? And he would have been in high school when she made her big debut, so perhaps. Yay, I just finished the last of them. He patted the notebook in front of him and laughed. I'm not sure how effective some of this training will be, but I hope it'll be enough to get them started, especially with you there Nemuri. What do you mean by that? She mostly taught art and history since quirks appeared. She hadn't taught the hero course or any classes where quirks were allowed in all her years here. What can I do? Give yourself more credit Nemuri, you're an excellent hero. Not many heroes can end riots as effectively and harmlessly as you can. For the number of crimes you've stopped, the overall number of injuries is among the lowest. His eyes sparkled as he talked and his face lit up. I really liked how you handled that prison riot 5 years ago. Oh, so you're a fan, are you Izuku? You should have told me. She leaned forward just enough so that her shirt was pulled down by her breasts and making it painfully obvious that she wasn't wearing a bra and taped her fingers along the table. She really should have just tried flirting with him to start with. Young men like him were always so jumpy and fun to tease. I'm sure we could have arranged for a private meeting or something. His eyes flashed down and his face burned a bright red that really brought out the green in his hair. Ah, so he was attracted to her. That was good. That was really good. He leaned back and held up his hands in front of him. Nemuri, we really shouldn't. Resistance? Time to break out all the stops. With a pout that she had spent years practicing, she placed a hand over her chest. Oh no, don't tell me you have a girlfriend. No. He squeaked like that answer was forced out of him by a stranglehold of masculine hormones. Even though Izuku was a good-looking guy and every female student had a mild crush on him, seeing him squirm just made him look so cute and vulnerable. I did, but that was back on the island, and yay. It was a while ago. Then what's stopping us from having a good time? She kept a pout up and tapped a finger to her lips, drawing his eyes towards them, putting thoughts of kissing her in his head. Do you not think I'm attractive, Izuku? What? No, it's not that. I think you're really cute most of the time, he said to her lips. His back hit the wall. Poor dear, she had him cornered. I just have more respect for you than Nomuri, you're a great hero and teacher, and I think that you deserve more. Besides, I like the real you. Huh? Their eyes met, there was a sincerity in his voice that shined like a torch in the dark green of his eyes and sent a shiver down her spine. A reversal. A complete and utter reversal. He had just turned everything back on her, and now her cheeks were burning. I'm going to hit the bath, Nomuri. We have a big day ahead of us tomorrow. He stood, still red in the face, and took wide steps around her. So, I'll also make sure that our students are asleep. And yay. He grabbed his bag and headed out the room. The table felt cold against her cheek. She didn't even want to drink anymore. It felt like he was disappointed in her, and that did not sit well with the half-can of beer in her stomach. Or the fact that he had basically shut her down so completely and utterly while still being so nice about it. What the hell? This wasn't how it should have gone. She should have teased him, then when he was about to give in, she would break it off and laugh. Now she was sitting there wallowing in regret and thinking that Izuku was really something. That was it. She was going to do something. She pushed off the table and downed the rest of her beer and growling to herself. Just you wait, Izuku, by the time this week is over you'll be begging me to be your girlfriend. And she would say yes. Wait. She should have said no, but she wanted to say yes. Damn it. Bastard was good at this. Fayumi was nervous. Technically a parent-teacher meeting was supposed to actually have the parent present, and while she was technically Shoto's primary caregiver, she wasn't his guardian or anything close to that. She was just his big sister. And she didn't even know the first thing about being a pro hero or whatever else the teacher wanted to talk about. Sure, she was the daughter of the number 2, or was it number 1 now, pro hero, but she was just a middle school teacher. Relaxing, Shoto said from his spot at the table, legs crossed, as he helped himself to the tea she had prepared for his sensei. Her brother, her dear baby brother, had some vague awareness of politeness and good manners, but he had a great capacity for rudeness. Probably because he didn't care. Midoriya-sensei is nice. Still, I'm not your parent, why did dad have to refuse to meet him? She whined, sinking further into her cushion and grabbing one of the small cookies she had set out. Bad enough that the meeting was during one of the biggest heat waves of the summer. Natsuo was out of the house too, having gone with some friends to camp in the mountains. A small smile appeared on Shoto's face. Because Midoriya-sensei yelled at him. Oh, is that so? She felt her shoulders slumped, so not only was she having to deal with this, but the man she was meeting was crazy enough to yell at her father. And apparently he managed to survive the encounter. Most people that pissed their father off tended to. Well, actually, most people were scared to shout at their father. And he was always pissed off. A knock came from the door, and she shot out of her seat, quickly straightening out her shirt and removing the crumbs from her mouth. That must be him. Do you want to get in the door with me? Nope. Of course, it's not like she wanted to back up when she was going to greet whatever giant of a man his teacher was. Weren't all UA teachers pro heroes? He must have been pretty strong to be able to stand up to her father. What if he shouted at her? She didn't even know what this meeting was about. Curse her responsible nature. Standing in front of the door, she prepared herself for some muscle-bound pro straining his spiked and leather-harnessed suit while glaring down at her. No doubt he was some grizzled old guy that would bark about how he's been teaching since before she was born. Maybe he'd get so mad that her father wasn't home he'd storm off, leaving her with only a mild heart attack. One deep breath later, she opened the door with a smile on her face. Instead of a giant burly man or someone dressed in a costume, she saw someone that could be her coworker. With his messy green hair, soft green eyes, square-framed glasses, and skin nearly as pale as hers, and a well-fitted dress shirt with the top button undone. The image of walking into a cafe and seeing him sitting at a table with a cup of tea in front of him as he read a book was so powerful she could all but smell the coffee. She could picture him looking up from his book and looking right at her, not anybody else, and smiling at her, and he moved just the slightest bit so that there was more room at his table, inviting her to join him for a cup of tea where they would talk about books they've read. And time would seem to fly, turning her coffee break into a 5-hour lunch. She'd been watching far too many TV dramas during summer vacation. "Oh, hello," she said once reality had finally caught back up to her. How long had they been standing there? Why wasn't he saying anything? "Can I help you?" The well-dressed man shook his head and pushed a strand of his messy green hair back into place before laughing like they had just crashed carts at the grocery store. His face turned a shade of pink, and he readjusted his glasses in a way that just nearly made her bite her lip. "Oh, right, I'm Izuku Midoriya, Shoto's sensei at UA. I have a meeting with him and his father today." This was Shoto's sensei? He was so young, and he didn't look like a pro at all. Shaking her head, she took a step back and motioned inside of her home. "I'm Fayumi Todoroki, Shoto's older sister. Our father won't be coming today, but I have legal responsibility over Shoto." Izuku let out a sigh and placed a hand over his chest. "Honestly, I'm relieved. I thought Endeavor would be here." I heard about your encounter with my father. Did you actually yell at him?" She watched as he effortlessly took his shoes off. Izuku's laugh was the kind of laugh that happened when someone was scared out of their mind. "Yay, I lost it when he was shouting at Shoto from the stands during the sports festival. I told him that he was the greatest hindrance for Shoto's growth. I thought I was going to die." It was impressive her father hadn't struck him. "So, how long have you been a teacher at UA? And what was your hero name?" she asked, walking close to him as she led him through her home. "Maybe he just looked young?" "Oh, I'm actually quirkless, so I wasn't a pro, and I just started teaching this year." He sounded cheerful when he said that. She turned to look at him and smiled. "Really? I just started a year ago at a middle school. How do you like teaching?" "You're a teacher too? That's great. I really like it a lot more than I thought I would." Izuku had a wide smile on his face. "What subject do you teach, Todoroki-sensei?" "I'm a homeroom teacher, and please call me Fayumi." She gave a small bow as she opened the door to the common room where Shoto was. It might be polite to call each other sensei, but that wasn't the kind of bond she wanted with this man. She wasn't insane, right? Or watching far too many dramas on TV again. "Oh, that's amazing, and please, call me Izuku." He returned her bow as he walked past her into the room. "I teach quirk theory and analytics, as well as oversee much of the quirk training done at UA. Sensei," came Shoto's cold greeting that still felt like a cold fish to the face. Shoto, I see you're well, and that your foolish adventures that night didn't get you hurt." There was a subtle change in Izuku's smile, hidden in his eye, that was just barely sharp enough to be considered a threat. Shoto's eyes went wide, and he jumped slightly. "Thank you, sensei." That was odd. She walked past Izuku and took her seat at the table. "Would you like some tea?" "Oh, yes please." That barb vanished like it had never been there, and he sat down across from her. If it wasn't for the fact that Shoto was sitting off to the side, this might be just like that cafe scene she had played out in her head earlier. She poured him a cup of tea that was thankfully still warm and placed it in front of him. "So, how has Shoto been doing in your class?" "He's been doing well." Izuku's smile vanished for the first time as he looked at Shoto. "I understand why you don't want to use your fire. But it's your quirk, Shoto. I know, sensei." Shoto held up his hand, that muted smile appearing on his face again. "I've thought about what you said a lot, and I want to start training my quirk again. All of it." Izuku's eyes seemed to shine at the news, and he had to adjust his glasses again. His whole face lit up like a kid at Christmas. "That's good, Shoto. I'll be sure to push you even harder during training." "Thank you, sensei." Now then, Izuku brought up his thin briefcase he had been carrying and placed it on the table. "On to the primary reason for my visit. UA wants all students to move into the dorms once summer vacation is over. We need parental permission to go through with it, so is this something you can sign?" He slid a piece of paper over to her and took out a pen for her. "Yes, of course, and I'm certain our father would agree to this as well." She looked towards her baby brother. "Do you want to move into the dorms, Shoto?" Her brother gave the smallest of nods. "I'll be able to focus better if I don't have to see his face every day." She really should have seen that answer coming. She signed at the bottom and slid the document back to Izuku. "Now then, is there anything else we can do for you?" Should she invite him to dinner? Would that be too forward? It might be too far. What if he had a girlfriend? Dang it. Shoto probably wouldn't know things like that. But it wouldn't have to be romantic or anything. Just inviting her brother's sensei over for dinner. For dinner she was late cooking, and she was probably just going to get takeout again tonight. Not at all, Izuku smiled at her, then at the document, as he placed it in his briefcase. Thank you so much for your time. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to get going. I still have a few more houses I need to get to today. Well, there went dinner. It was a pleasure meeting you, Izuku. Likewise, Fayumi. He stood and headed towards the door, but stopped with his fingers touching the slider. He turned back towards her, staring at the ground, and gave a short awkward laugh. I'm going to regret this if I don't at least try. But do you think I could get your number? So we could maybe go to a cafe and just talk for a bit? Yes. Her voice reached an octave she hadn't achieved since she was 16. Yes, I'd enjoy that a lot. Really? Izuku asked everyone, but ran back over to the table. That's great. Yeah. Why was he always the last one out? Izuku yawned, smacked his lips, and stretched to the point that his back gave that oh-so-satisfying pop. That vague sense of hunger he had felt for the past hour or so stung just a bit, and he wondered what was for dinner. Not that there was even an option, he'd probably just end up getting takeout again, eating half of it for dinner, passing out eating the other half for breakfast, and then coming back here to do it all again. Being a teacher was a simple life, but he wouldn't trade it for anything. That was the lie he told himself for years. Maybe Aizawa-sensei is right, and I'm pushing myself too hard? He muttered, staring at the clock. This late on a Wednesday wasn't normally associated with anything. But if it was Friday and he was social, he'd probably be out having drinks with his coworkers. If he had coworkers his age, there would be a steep gap between him and the other teachers. Sometimes it felt larger than it really was. There was a flash, and the scent of a fresh lightning strike wafted into the room. A woman came walking in from the still closed door, striding with the kind of purpose that she was supposed to be there and the kind of confidence to match it. She was a youthful beauty with long silver hair that trailed down to her back in a professional cut, though she had a single tuft of red hair that fell just in front of her face, supported by the lone-off yellow horn that stuck out from above her right eye. Her red eyes locked onto him, and her smile left him all but helpless. She had on a tight red sweater that was held tight to her waist by a thick black leather belt. Her skirt was tight and professional, the kind that always made him question how the woman walked. Her legs were covered in a gray so dark it was nearly black, and the red heels she wore just completed her professional look. With purpose, she walked over to him and sat down on his lesson plan. Her finger touched just under his chin. You shouldn't exist. He blinked at the otherworldly beauty that sat in front of him. There was a teasing softness to her voice that made him feel like a mouse cornered by a cat. I'm sorry? I really have no idea how I made you. She touched his cheek with her thumb before she huffed and dropped her hand, placing it on his desk and looking around. Teacher, huh? I guess that makes sense with your drive to be a hero. Normally if you didn't get a quirk you just end up in the support course, marrying May, sometimes Melissa. But I guess you're older than them now, and one's your students. What are you talking about? And who are you? He asked, still feeling oddly calm about the woman. It wasn't a voluntary calm for the sake of himself, it was the kind of calm that overcame one when they didn't want to wake a sleeping giant. Where intrigue and fear mixed together. You'd think I'd be used to you not knowing who I am. I could tell you, but it's so much more fun to tease you. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. Well, I might bite if I get bored. She crossed her legs so that her heel rested just on his thigh. Yep, he was a mouse, and she was a great big cat. She adjusted a ring on her ring finger deliberately so that he could see it. If you want something to call me, I'm your time-traveling wife. And I really have no idea how I made you. Wife? Time travel? Maid? Was he on drugs? Maybe he really was overworking. I have a quirk that, well, she gave a soft laugh and flicked her long hair back behind her head. It makes time my bitch. In a different timeline, a different prime timeline, I'm your wife. But somehow, I'm now here in this different prime timeline, with an Izuku that's a few years older than he should be, walking a completely different path. It's less time travel this time, and more like I completely changed universes. That sounds rough, I'm sorry. He tore his eyes from hers and looked down at her hand, specifically that ring. Why did it feel familiar? You're sorry? She gave a small laugh, drawing him towards her, smile that was all but purring at him. You haven't done anything, Izuku. No, I mean, I'm sorry that you have to be all alone. I know what it's like to go to someplace new and not know everybody. I can't imagine going to a whole new universe where even your husband doesn't recognize you." Her eyes went wide. The mouse had stunned the cat. Then she smiled at him again, placing her ringed hand over his. Her touch was soft. "Well, on the plus side, if I'm stuck in this alternate universe, I don't think it'd be hard to fall in love with you." He blinked and found his lips tingling with the sensation of a kiss. Only 1,000 times more intense, and the woman was leaning back on the desk once more, fingers on her lips, as she winked at him. "What did you just?" "That's for the talk, Izuku." She hopped up and gave a long stretch. "I always feel like I can take on the world after I talk with you. It even goes when I'm dealing with a different you. Now then, I'm going to try and figure out how to fix this mess." "Wait, if I'm not supposed to be me, does that mean that you'll be erasing me?" He leaned forward looking at her. A quirk like hers was scary, but just as exciting. At least she didn't appear evil. He hoped that no version of him would marry a villain. "What?" she snorted, waving her hand at him before running her fingers through his hair. It felt nice. "You stick to quirks, honey, and I'll stick to understanding how the time stream works. But if you must know, you'll still exist, even if I were to go back and change your past, you'd still be you with the same past. I'd just end up discovering a new branch." She turned from him and paused mid-step before spinning towards him again, her face less than an inch from his. He felt her lips press onto his forehead. "I'm glad you're such a sweet Izuku. Now then, if you start having weird deja vu and a bunch of dreams about you hooking up with other women, because apparently that's your favorite pastime. That's just me trying to figure this all out. Oh, and if I get bored, I'll probably come to see you for a night of fun or two." Just like that, she was gone. And he was weirdly aroused. "Hey, sensei. Why don't you two test it for us?" One of their students waved their arms at the trial of courage they had built to scare each other. That was the key word there. Each other. Not their sensei. Normally, she'd be absolutely okay with participating in such a youthful activity, especially if her students were all but begging her to participate. There was just one small problem. Nemuri didn't exactly do scary things. But she couldn't let her students know that. They already loved Izuku more than her, she could not lose any cool points to him. Still, Izuku was the jumpy kind, maybe he wouldn't have the. That sounds like a great idea. Izuku clapped his notebook shut, and all the students looked at him. It had to be some kind of conditioning he did with them. What was the one with the dog and the bell? Pavlov or something? But why don't we make things interesting? If you can manage to scare me or Ms. Kayama, I'll buy you all a barbecue. There was an instant spark in all of their eyes, all at once their combined efforts were focused, not on scaring each other, but on scaring their sensei. Izuku was a master of motivation, which was the polite way of saying that he was a master at manipulation. "What do you call sensei?" Izuku turned to her with that stupid easy smile on his face that was actually really kind of cute. He waggled his eyebrows in her direction and gave a not-so-sly wink that straddled the line between dorky and adorable. Adorkable, that word seemed to fit Izuku to a T. "Care to protect me in the forest? Bastard?" If she didn't agree, there went the student's idea that they'd be getting barbecue. They were already going to be getting barbecue. It was in the budget, the truck was coming tomorrow, but now he had made it, so she couldn't refuse. "Fine. I'll go. But don't expect it to be easy to scare me. I am a pro after all." Izuku bowed at the waist in an overly dramatic display that had the students chuckling. And her face felt way too hot for the summer air. Jerk. It was so shameful having her junior play her like a fiddle. "I leave my safety in your capable hands." As their students buzzed around running into the forest developing plans and laughing in the same breath. She even heard the telltale chatter of girls talking about whether or not their sensei would make a cute couple. Which they would. She made every relationship cute. "Would you put me on the spot like that?" She huffed, glaring at Izuku, waiting for the all-clear signal before they could actually head into the forest. Her heart was already beating in anticipation. They were already going to get a barbecue. "Ah, but they don't know that. I thought I was going to have to use this for training today, but I didn't really need to. We have some motivated students on our hands." He winked. Again. Yep. Adorkable was the right word for Izuku. And cute. And ga. When did she get a crush on her junior? She was supposed to moderately dislike him due to him being the cool hip teacher now that was every student's friend. So, now we get to wander through the woods while our heroes in training do their best to scare the crap out of us. She sighed in defeat and leveled one last glare towards Izuku. It lasted for a few seconds before her cheeks burned. It was like staring into the sun. She needed more beer. And by more beer she meant any beer. Before she knew it, she was walking through the woods mere inches away from Izuku. He was still wearing his teacherly outfit, but he had the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone, and he was in a relaxed pair of jeans. It was probably the closest to casual he had ever gotten. Seriously, he looked so proper, but he was so relaxed half the time. A decent mix of work and not play. So do you often go on long strolls in the middle of the woods at night, or? Izuku scratched the back of his head laughing. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Were you trying to flirt with me? She raised an eyebrow at Izuku, though she could barely see his face in the moonlit forest. His green was hard to miss. Because honestly, I've had better passes from students. And this is why I don't flirt. I have no game. Like at all. Maybe, or maybe you're just playing the wrong game. She pushed some of her hair out of her face and kept her eyes on the forest. Maybe she should have gone with the lazy ponytail instead of her usual wild hair. When you're teaching, the balls are in your court, so you can make the rules, and you do really well at it. Thanks. I think that was a compliment. It was. I think you're probably the best teacher at UA. Most of us were pro heroes first, then teachers. You're a teacher first. Thanks. A ghost appeared before them, followed closely by someone screaming. Oh, that was her. She was the one that was screaming. And what was that mist? Oh. It was her quirk. Which was why the ghost was currently snoring. And why another student fell from a tree. And why Izuku was knocked out on the ground. Well, shit. She looked around at the still spreading cloud of her quirk. Followed by a cough and someone snoring. She leaned down and slapped Izuku on the cheek a few times. Come on, wake up. He wasn't waking up. He was still asleep. Apparently when she was scared her quirk worked a lot better. More snoring. Oh come on Izuku. Wake up. She slapped him hard. Oh, Izuku groaned, his eyes fluttering open. He stared at her for a few seconds and smacked his lips. What happened? I don't do scared, now I need your help to collect our sleeping students. Summer vacation was in full swing, and for the first time in a long time Izuku found himself not busy. As to what he was going to do with this complete and utter freedom? Just sit back and relax. Play a video game he'd bought months ago, but just didn't have a chance, watch some of the shows his students have been suggesting to him. Hell, he could even develop a new hobby or something. He'd even gotten into the Sake David, and all might have gotten him. Heh, maybe I should finally go out and try and find a girlfriend. He half mused, taking the first sip of the sweet, yet slightly bitter liquid. He wasn't much of a drinker, but there were a few times when he enjoyed a cup or two. University taught him that it took the edge off. Still, what would he even do with a girlfriend? Or even find one? He was so used to just talking with other teachers and students that he might not even know how to flirt. And it's not like one's just going to fall into my lap. He took another sip. A slight flash, like someone using their phone down the alleyway, followed by the crisp smell of a thunderstorm echoed throughout his modest apartment. Whoa, a soft feminine voice came from the entranceway, followed by a stumble and several thuds. Then came a few drunken giggles. Shit, I hope this is the right time. I really should have it memorized by now. That voice sounded familiar. But he had written that off as a loneliness-induced fever dream. More confused and curious than he was scared, he leaned back to look past the kitchen nook and into the entranceway. It was her. That silver-haired beauty that came into his life talked a lot of nonsense, then followed it all up by kissing him and saying she'd be back. Only this time she was far less refined. Her hair was tied into a very messy bun that was held in place by a set of pins. That defiant red strand stood out against her pale complexion as it dangled around her lone horn. She hopped twice on one foot while she removed the wooden sandals she was wearing. Her red yukata, that was highlighted with black and silver flowers, swayed for a moment, slowly sliding down her shoulder and revealing the sway of her breasts. She caught it just before it fell and then looked up at him, a devilish smile appearing on her face. Perv. She half ran, half stumbled over to him and crashed down right beside him. Her shoulder exposed again. I knew I was in the right when. You don't move out for a few more years. She laughed and hiccuped, the smell of alcohol on her breath. This timeline is probably so weird to me. Izuku looked at her. Then I looked at his Sake. Was it bad already? Could Sake go bad? Or did he really have a quirk called desperation that made a random girl appear when he needed her? Either way, he probably shouldn't drink anymore. Oh. Before we start, how many times have we met? The time traveler slurred, scodding closer to him, exposing more of that smooth, bare shoulder and just the top of most of her breasts. This is the second time I've had hallucinations about a crazy time traveler barging into my life. He sighed, once again finding it really hard to avoid looking at the woman. Even when she was disheveled and drunk, she had this air of grace about her. Do I get to know your name now? PFFT, no. She half laughed, grabbing for his sake bottle. Do you know how often I get to tease you about my name? Do you know how many names I've even had? 'Cause I don't. She drowned her shake like an old man and squealed as it went down while kicking her legs. It was very adorable. Well, what should I call you? The crazy time traveler? What was it about my time traveling wife? She tapped her finger on the table, that glistening ring speaking volumes to him. Well, if you really want to call me something, you can just call me honey. I always like it when you call me that, especially when you're kissing my neck and giving me a massage. She wiggled her eyebrows and turned her back to him while slowly pushing her yukata down so that both of her shoulders were exposed. Come on, Izuku, you should know that I'm very amiable when you're giving me a massage. Does that mean you'll give me a name? Honey? He rolled his eyes, adjusting to grab her shoulders. Her skin was just as soft and smooth as he thought it would be. Those massage lessons were finally paying off. She moaned instantly. Oh, yay, that's the stuff, I've missed your touch so much. It's been way too long. If you want to call me something, let's go for something ethereal this time around. How about Fate? Is that your name? It's the name I'm giving you. I've had it before, I'll probably have it again. Okay, Fate, what were you doing before you just showed up here? Did she have to moan so hotly? Fate reached her head rolling as she pulled out the pins from her hair. The cascade of silver that followed was among the hottest things he had ever seen. I was getting rid of some stress. Really needed to unwind after like 5 years of searching for answers. Went to the Edo period for a big festival they put on. She turned to him with a soft smile on her face, her red eyes flirting with his soul. They have the best sake. I had a bit too much, so now I'm here where I feel safe. With you. 5 years? You don't look like you've aged at all. Perks of having more or less complete control over time. I don't even want to know what I'd look like if I didn't stay at this age. So, how old are you? Good question. My body is probably about 25. If we go by birthday, probably about 6. If we go by how much time I have spent alive. She turned to him completely, her yukata unraveling at the motion. Her silver hair fell over part of her face like a waterfall holding 1,000 secrets. Well, that's a difficult question. Asking me how many days have passed in my life would be like asking you how many seconds have passed in yours. Without being able to cheat with maths. That's a lot older than I thought. He swallowed the lump in his throat and stared at her, his breath frozen by her gaze, and his heart was thudding in his chest. He fell back on his hands as she loomed forward. It must be lonely. Oh, don't worry, there's this wonderful guy that no matter what timeline I'm in, no matter what form he's in, he can put a smile on my face and make me feel human and oh so wonderful. She leaned forward, her bare breasts now exposed. She stalked forward like a predator, the alcohol on her breath was but an aftertaste to the pure heat of the moment. And right now, I really want him to kiss me. He fell backwards, as though he was trying to run from her. Your yukata, it's off. Oh I know. Fate gave a sly smile and reached behind her and discarded the remains of her yukata, revealing her naked form. Why wasn't she wearing a bra? Right, Edo period. Did they have bras back then? They had underwear. Was she into that kind of thing? And your clothes need to come off if you're going to properly destress me. Nope. He stood out from under her grasp, grabbed a blanket and put it over her. I'm sorry, you seem really nice, but I don't know you that well, besides you're technically married. Feel free to stay here tonight if you want. But, oh, look at the time, I should really go to bed. Virgin. Fate laughed and wrapped herself up in the blanket. You're also so cute during our first time. Don't worry, Izuku. You'll have plenty of time to get to know me in the future. Well, I guess that would be fine. His entire body felt hot. I'll see you tomorrow, I guess. Her naked arm shot out from the blanket and she gave him a smile that made his heart skip a beat. Izuku, I'll never get tired of growing old with you. Cloud 9 wasn't exactly the right term for how she was feeling. If anything, it was closer to Cloud 6, maybe Cloud 7. Unless those meant different things than feeling really happy that she was going out on a date with her little brother's teacher. Which sounded worse in her head than it was. They were both teachers, so it was fine. Fayumi half-skipped and hummed her way to her meeting place with Izuku, despite almost walking back at least twice. Sure, she was happy, but she was also really nervous. She and Izuku had talked over text for a few weeks now, and summer was coming to an end, which meant both of them were going to be busy with work. Well, busier. But that nervousness vanished once she saw where she and Izuku were going to have their coffee date. It was a splendid mix of modern design, old-fashioned style, and a book lover's paradise. If anything, it looked like someone had made a library and then stopped halfway through and turned it into a bookstore, then a bakery, and a coffee shop. And her mouth nearly watered as she stared at some of those pastries that were on display. Just walking into this paradise, she felt more awake due to the scent of coffee. And the soft sounds of the place just made her feel like she should be wearing her pajamas and slowly waking up to a snow-covered morning, despite it being August. Fayumi, she heard Izuku's teacher voice, firm, kind, loud, but not a shout, call her from his table. He stood and smiled at her. Over here. Oh look, she was nervous again. It wasn't that Izuku was especially good looking. Okay, well, he was. It was more that, if she took a test for her most realistically perfect boyfriend, Izuku would get a perfect mark. He was smart, kind, funny, charming, and she really wanted to tear open his vest dress shirt combo and expose his chest. According to Shoto, he was in decent shape. And he had a habit of rolling up his sleeves. Yes, he looked like a hipster, but he pulled it off. And apparently that was her weakness. That, and his messy green hair. She wanted to play with it. Damn it. She wasn't sure if she was just that desperate or if she was that attracted to Izuku. Actually, probably the latter. Hey, she said slowly, bouncing over to him and sucking on her lip. Thanks for inviting me out here. I didn't know this place existed. Neither did I, but it's run by the family of one of my students, so they told me about it. Izuku gestured towards their table and slid into his seat, a sly smile appearing on his face, and his eyes sparked with just the right amount of mischief. I get coffee half off here. Ooh, she smiled back at him. Thrifty. It smells fantastic. And it tastes even better. Izuku winked like it was some kind of secret. Sensei, a purple-haired boy that looked like he needed to drink the coffee he was serving, walked up to their table, a cat on his shoulders and a pen and paper in his hands. His name tag read Hitachi. What can I get for you two? They both made their orders, a lot of which was some vaguely French-sounding words that she pretended to know what they were, and a sandwich each. I've been wanting to ask you here for a while, but summer has made me busier than I thought I would. Izuku's smile twisted as he rested in the palm of his hand. He really hasn't stopped smiling at her since she got here. It was making her smile too. I hope it's been treating you well. I started coaching the girls' volleyball team, so I took them to a training camp in Kyoto last week. It mostly happened because the original coach got sick, and now she was stuck as their coach. But it was more fun than she thought it would be. It reminded her of her days on the volleyball court, or rather the bench, back in high school. I used to be pretty good at serving. That sounds like a lot of fun. He hummed for a moment before snorting. If I tried to use that during quirk training, I imagine your brother would just make an ice wall to end the game. She laughed, holding a hand over her mouth and totally not fluttering her eyes at him. He would. He's so straightforward sometimes, but he's been ever so slightly more human since he joined your class. She reached just across the table and grabbed his hand. Thank you, Izuku, it means a lot. You don't have to thank me. We're both teachers, you do the same for your students, I'm sure. True, but she also wouldn't end up shouting at her father that he was the one holding Shoto back. Even after all these years. Izuku stood up to him though. And that was really hot. Their coffee arrived, as did their food, Hitachi nodding to them and wishing them a good date. Everything was superb, the coffee was flavorful, had the right zest to wake her up, while the sandwich was absolutely amazing. And spending time with Izuku? Well, it was easily a highlight of her summer. Time flew by, and before she knew it, they had spent 5 hours talking for a lunch date. It was unlike any date she had ever been on, with Izuku being not just romantic, but genuine. It just made him so much easier to talk to. Hey, Izuku said softly, grabbing her hand and smiling at her in a heart-melting way. I know this was just supposed to be a lunch date, but I just wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind extending it. We could go for a walk, then buy some groceries, and go back to my place and make dinner? Or is that too forward? Or are you busy? His house? More dates? More food? Fayumi bit her lip, staring at Izuku as her heart thumped in her chest, all but screaming to say yes and to spend more time with Izuku. Her brain was saying the exact same thing. Sure, but do you think, after dinner, we could watch a movie? Maybe cuddle? And then? She trailed off, biting her lip, her face flushing. She doubted she was going home tonight. Chances are Natsuo and Shoto have already made soba for dinner. Izuku shook his head in shock, his smile growing as he grabbed her other hand. That sounds fantastic, Fayumi. Great, I just have one request. What is it? Her heart pounded in her chest once more. I know that this is sudden, and it's the first date, but do you think I can get a kiss? Right now? He nodded. She closed her eyes. He moved in. Contact. Cloud 9. So, I heard they have a new teacher. Ryuko all but bounced on her feet as they waited for the UA bus to arrive. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman had that look in her eyes she got whenever there was even a remote chance that there was a potential life partner involved. One that isn't a pro hero, a good old-fashioned civilian teacher. What kind of man do you think he is? Do you think he's single? I hope he's single. Down girl, Shino patted her longtime co-worker on the back. Her desperation was only getting worse. There was a time and place to try and find love, but a school training camp was not the place. We're here to work, not to date. Hey now, all I do is work. If I'm going to find love, then it's going to be while I'm on the clock. Besides, what about you, Shino? You're getting up there in years as well. If you're not careful, you'll turn into a crazy cat lady. Ryuko already was a crazy cat lady. Aren't we already all crazy cat ladies? Tomoko danced, jumping for a moment to try and looking further down the road, her long green hair bounced along with her yellow tail. Besides Yuara, that is. Yuara just nodded in agreement. Though both Tomoko and Ryuko did have a point. The only one among them that was in any sort of stable relationship was Yuara, having been married to a sweet little woman they rescued a few years back. And they all had at least one cat. But she didn't really have a lot of time to go out and date, she still had to look after Kota. Besides, she wanted someone more mature, someone that had their shit together and was just, how was the best way to put it? Responsible, and that meant no heroes. Not that there was anything wrong with dating a hero, she was one herself, but it just felt irresponsible. Yay, well, still if he's hot, I call dibs. Ryuko placed a thumb into her chest and stood proudly. Her definition of hot had dropped, that it basically boiled down to a person having hair, all their limbs, most of their teeth, and healthy. Looks didn't really matter much. If you say so. Hopefully she wouldn't go after the students. They were 15 years old? Sheesh, she was twice their age. Great, now she feels old. Oh. Tomoko jumped, flailing her arms. They're here. Quickly, we need to get ready. I'm excited. When the buses came to a stop and the UA students emerged to stretch their legs, Shota Aizawa introduced them as their trainers for the week. There were a few that knew them and a few that asked questions, but that didn't last once they figured out what exactly was happening and they were forced down into the forest below. Their screams are music to my ears. Ryuko purred as she directed her beasts to attack the students. Her sadistic side was showing again. Please don't injure my students. The mysterious new teacher stepped off of the bus. And oh no, he wasn't just hot. It was like someone took all of the things she found attractive and rolled them up into one man that looked like he'd be perfectly at home at a coffee shop as he read some book for the pure joy of it. Messy green curly hair, square glasses, brilliant green eyes, and a light bit of freckling on his cheeks made for the most teacherly teacher to ever teach. His lithe frame was complemented by the white dress shirt he wore and the black slacks he had on. Really, it was like someone was trying to make a model of a teacher. And it was working. Oh, don't worry. Ryuko turned to him, her face was red and her tongue was sticking out. I won't hurt them. Really, it's all just a show to scare them, ha 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 ha. I'm Ryuko Tsuchikawa, and who might you be? Are you single? Well, she wasn't wasting any time. Well, that is. The green-haired teacher took a step back, his face a bright red, as Ryuko closed in. Pixie Bob, please don't harass Izuku, he's here to train the students just like you are. Eraserhead let out a long sigh that seemed to echo with the mountains themselves. I suppose introductions are in order, Izuku this is. The Wild Pussycats, they're an elite group of heroes that have amazing teamwork. The blush vanished instantly as Izuku pushed up his glasses and smiled at them. He offered each of them a handshake. I must say you have some great teamwork, and I look forward to working with all of you. I'm Izuku Midoriya, I just started teaching at UA as a quirk theory and analysis teacher. That sounds hot. Ryuko muttered. Really girl? They were going to need to have a talk, weren't they? Izuku here might be quirkless, but his knowledge is invaluable in helping our students grow. I know that normally you work on your own during the training camp, but please listen to him. He's proven to know what he's talking about, Eraserhead said with his hands in his pockets. He glared at them for half a second before turning back towards the bus. I look forward to working with you all. Izuku bowed deeply and smiled at him. Please have faith in me. You're so cute. So about the single. Ryuko, she said firmly, you're being a bit much right now. Why don't we get in the car and start heading to the cabin? Oh what? But I'm just being thirsty. Tomoko said loudly and laughed as their blonde-haired friend swiped at her. I'll get the keys. Yuara grumbled, technically he was the only one of them with a driver's license. Tomoko had hers revoked. He stretched his arm over to Ryuko and pulled her along. Come along now. Shino could only laugh at her group's antics, she really shouldn't be feeling so embarrassed by them, but she did. Sorry about all that. Oh don't worry about it, Izuku said, his face still red. You'd think I'd be used to it by now. Used to it? Alright, he worked with Midnight, he probably got flirted with on a daily basis. Well, I guess I'll see you down at the cabin. Actually Shino, I can call you Shino right? She nodded, and he continued. I was hoping I could talk to you, your quirk is telepathy right? I'm probably going to be relying on you a lot to get my training across all 40 students. So learning more about you might help a bit. Oh. Certainly, that sounds fine. Okay, it was purely professional, he was just wanting to get things right with his students, and it was just a 30-minute bus ride. There was no way that she was going to develop a crush on him at that time. Mostly because she might already be crushing on him. Damn it Ryuko. This was all her fault somehow. She really shouldn't be this nervous. But when her ever so energetic and beloved little intern, Nejire Hato, said that she wanted to bring her absolute favorite teacher to the UA for a meeting, she couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. It was kind of like when she was a kid and her parents had to go to the school for a meeting. Only now, she was 25, in the top 10, had her own agency, and had a few sidekicks. She was an adult. So why was she so terrified? This was worse than the time she met All Might. Why was Nejire bringing her teacher here again? With another sigh, Ryuko straightened her dress and strongly debated just appearing in her dragon form to assert dominance or something. Didn't Nejire say that this teacher was amazing and the nicest person ever, and that he was quirkless? From how Nejire talked about him, the girl had to have some kind of a crush. But then again, Nejire had a crush on basically everyone. Including Ryuko herself. What else did Nejire say about this teacher? He was really super smart and awesome with quirks. She said that this teacher was the one that helped her learn to fly. And that he helped her entire class learn to use their quirks better. Oh, and he apparently had the most amazing green curly hair. Come to think of it, he had green curly hair too, didn't he? Ryuko tapped on her chin. It had been a dozen years since she last saw him, right? That boy, her first real crush, and her childhood friend. Izuku Midoriya. She still remembered his smile telling her that she could become a great hero, and the tear-filled sobs of their parting. Maybe she should try and find him again? She moved towards her desk, she still had a photo of two of them from the day her middle school volleyball team won the championships. When she ended up moving away, they tried to stay in contact, but then one day, it stopped. She tried a few years ago, when she became a hero, but it was as if Izuku Midoriya didn't exist. Which was a shame, because despite her past relationships, none of them really ever felt as real as her crush with Izuku. She laughed and looked at the photo. Look at me, a 26-5-year-old woman, still in love with her 13-year-old childhood crush. Still, I wonder how you look now? Taller, I hope. Well, that settled it. After she met with Nejire's oh-so-wonderful and amazing teacher, she was going to try and find Izuku. If for no other reason than to catch up. Besides, they were both halfway into their 20s, he was probably married by now. Ryukyu. Nejire's oh-so-cheerful and bubbly voice sounded from beyond her office door. The girl was probably skipping with excitement. Her office door burst open, and Nejire bounced in a giant smile on her face. "Are you ready?" "He's here, he's here, he's here." "Calm down, Nejire." A man from behind her spoke. "I know you're excited, but just take a deep breath." Nejire nodded, her long blue hair bouncing at the sudden motion. She halfway hid behind the door and pulled the man in. "Ryukyu, meet my super awesome sensei. His name is Izuku?" Ryuko asked, feeling her mouth drop as she looked at the man. "Ryuko?" Izuku's mouth likewise dropped. Well, he was certainly taller. Really, it just felt like Izuku checked every single mark on her ideal man wishlist. He was slender, had messy green hair, pulled off a dress shirt like an absolute boss, and just looked smart. And Izuku? That one was a big deal. "Oh, you too," Nejire began. "It really is you." She half screamed, turning back into that 13-year-old girl and running over to him. She pulled him into a hug, her chin perfectly resting on his shoulder. She'd have to get on her tippy toes just to kiss him. "I can't believe it." He hugged her back. His breath tangled in her hair and scraped against her ear. Okay, so apparently her melting temperature was Izuku degrees Celsius. "It's been way too long, Ryuko. I should have realized you were you. I should have." She hugged him tighter, her chest pressing against his. Yep, the trick still worked. Izuku went relatively silent. His hands froze on her back, and he stuttered. "I've missed you so much." "So," Nejire bounced over between them, pouting at being left out. "How do you two know each other?" She kept her arm around Izuku's waist in an awkward half-hug and looked at his now so very red face, then towards Nejire. "Izuku is my childhood friend, Nejire. We got separated in middle school." "So, thank you, Nejire, thank you for helping me find him." Nejire's pout vanished, and she bounced up clapping her hands. "That's amazing." "Wait. What did you two look like back then? I bet you were both cute." "Oh, did you two ever date? Why did you stop talking?" "Nejire," Izuku said slowly. "Remember what I said about too many questions?" He wasn't backing away from her. That was a good sign. He used to get flustered and stand as far away as he could from her whenever she reminded him that she was a girl. Wow, she had a weird way of flirting when they were little, huh? Speaking of which. Hey, Nejire. Is Izuku still single? She ignored the gasp of her childhood friend and watched as Nejire began to float. Yep. He said that he was too busy to try and find one and that there was someone there. Nejire let out a gasp. He had a crush on you. That's why he hasn't. Nejire, please, no more. Izuku finally worked his way out from her gasp. His face was so very red. Oh, she was going to tease him. Nejire, if you promise to leave and let me and Izuku catch up for, say, an hour or two, I'll let you borrow a photo of me and him when we were in middle school. She grabbed her metallic headpiece and took it off. It was just going to get in the way. She walked over to her desk and grabbed the photo. Nejire vibrated with excitement, making a noise that was a bit like the squeak of a puppy before she darted off with the photo, slamming the door behind her. This is the cutest thing ever. I should call the yearbook squad. Now then, why don't we catch up? She leaned against her desk, smiling at Izuku. He was twitching nervously. He really was the same boy she remembered, but he was so much more than that. And how did you end up as a teacher at UA? Well, after you moved, I kind of met with David Shield and got accepted into university on Island. Wrote a lot of papers, eventually got a couple PhDs, and convinced UA to hire me to teach quirk studies. He did that adorable thing where he scratched the back of his head. I'm sorry, she couldn't hear him over the sound of her panties hitting the floor. Metaphorically, of course. Did you say a couple PhDs? Yay, Itty blushed and shuffled on his feet. It was either that or they make a new scientific field to give me a PhD in that, but yay. Island is always why I couldn't contact you. They aren't happy with sending messages out of the university. Sorry. Oh, don't worry about it, I'm just kicking myself for not being able to make it the few times I've been invited. She just didn't feel like it was her place to speak up against the other pro heroes that wanted to go, and there was limited use for support items for her. But maybe she should have seen Izuku. Besides, now you're here, and that's really all that matters. Holy crap, she did not mean to say that so sultrily, it turned herself on. Or maybe she did. Yeah, she did. Oh. Well, what have you been up to? Izuku muttered, jumping when she took a step towards him. You're looking at it. I took your advice to heart, trained my stamina, and mastered my dragon form. Now I'm in the top 10 heroes for 2 years now." She shrugged and laughed. A good portion of her numbers came from just how cool her quirk was. Little kids love dragons. "I'm surprised a hero nerd like yourself didn't realize who I was. Sorry." He squeaked his back against a wall. Oh, was she cornering him? Too bad. "Don't worry about it. Now then, is what Nejire said true? Are you single?" He nodded. "Ye." She cut him off with a sharp kiss that felt 1,000 times more real than any kiss she had before now. Her entire body melted against Izuku's. His hands wrapped around her waist while her fingers tangled with his hair. It felt like her smile would never vanish. "Not anymore, you're not. Oh, and by the way, I had a huge crush on you back then too. And it hasn't changed. They can go fuck themselves." At this point in her life, the phrase Mo's trainwreck of a relationship finally came to a crash was something that her friends and family knew all too well. This last one had been great. Oh, who the hell was she kidding? It was a fucking mess from the start and had been her longest relationship ever by about a day or something. She wasn't the one keeping track. But now it had all come crashing down in a flaming ball of shit. So now she was doing what she always did. Get fucking hammered and make terrible life choices with her friends. Yeah. Amy banged their mostly empty mugs together again. Her orange bandana was off and on the table. "Fuck what's his face, and that whatever her name is." Amy took a long swig of her beer and slammed it down onto the table. A pile of food and glasses were scattered between them. There was enough there for like 4 people. Even if it was just them today. Shame Ryuko and Rumi couldn't make it. I kinda wanted to get Rumi drunk again so she could threaten to kick his ass. That was another tradition. Get the rabbit drunk and set her in the direction of whoever the hell was making them drink in the first place. Mo took another long sip of her beer and found that it was empty sooner than she would have liked. "Yeah, where the hell are those two? Now that they're in the top 10 they think they're too good for us or something?" "Nah, it's not like that, you know Ryuko, she's always been the responsible one." Amy laughed, waving her hand like she hadn't drunk enough beer to kill a man. Seriously, that girl could drink someone's All Might size out from under the table and ask for round 2. And Mo thought that she was supposed to be the one that burned through alcohol. Fuck. Did she really just make that pun in her head? Crap, Amy was rubbing off of her. She said that since she has herself a bunch of interns this year she needs to make a good impression. So she can't go out and get blackout drunk again. Amy sighed and then flipped her hand in the air. And you know how Rumi gets said that she can't risk beating up some poor civilian while drunk if she wanted to make it into the top 5 this year. So what can you do? Drag them to the bar, kicking and screaming. Mo took a drink and glared at Amy. Out of everyone in the group of Amy was the one that had changed the least. It was still so hard to get her head around the fact that Amy was a teacher. They might be in the top 10, but I'm Endeavor's right-hand girl. And he's second only to All Might. Hey, if you ask your boss, do you think he'll burn your old place down? Amy asked, signaling for more beer to come to their table. Mo grabbed the mug before it even hit the table. This one was probably going to be gone faster than the last. If I wanted to burn that dump down, I'd do it myself. Besides, it's not my place. It's his. I just live there. You want help going to get your stuff? Amy's smile died, and she looked at her beer. This was the only clue that Amy was drunk, that occasional slip of the dark side that could give any hero nightmares at what she could do if she was a villain. Mo liked that side of her. You know, I've heard people can die of laughter. Always wondered if I could make it happen. Nah, that'd involve seeing that bastard's and that skank's face. I'd rather just burn the whole thing out of my memory. Oh, how about we kidnap Ryuko, Rumi, that giant blonde lady, and go set up an Amazon enclave on some tropical island somewhere? The smiles were back again. Or we could. Amy paused and looked over to the side. Or we could go get you laid. I just found out my boyfriend had been cheating on me 6 hours ago. So? That's not the fastest you've found a new boy. Besides, I see my favorite guy in the world, and he has a friend. Oh, it's his coworker, he's cute, I think you'll like him. Amy nodded with her chin and began to straighten her seafoam green hair. Mo didn't really need to look to find out who she was talking about. Amy was a fun-loving, smoking hot girl that unfortunately had an absolutely terrible taste in men. Not that Mo was one to talk, the only man that had ever caught Amy's eye was the dullest, least exciting person in the entire world. Shota Aizawa, he was a teacher at UA, though his hero's name was Eraserhead. Still, the coworker might be interesting. Mo turned and looked across the bar to see Shota sitting across from a green-haired man. He looked like a nerd. He had messy dark green hair, a freckled face, and looked ready to jump at any loud noise. Terrible sweater choice. She really didn't see the appeal of a guy like that. But then again, her and Amy always had very different tastes in men. He's not my type. Mo turned back to her beer. Wait. Why was it so empty? Damn it. Amy snapped her fingers and pointed at Mo, green eyes sharp as her tongue. In all fairness, you have a crappy taste in men. So try some of mine, you might just enjoy it. It was impossible to deny that. 6 relationships in 5 years that have gone up in one kind of smoke or another. That Amazon idea was starting to sound real good. Haven't you been chazzing that guy for years now, and you haven't gotten anywhere with him? She didn't have that kind of time. She already had a Christmas cake. Amy was halfway out the stall when she snorted and grabbed onto Mo's arm. I wouldn't say I haven't gotten anywhere with him. Especially after a few beers. Now come on, I'll introduce you. How what, but I. Hey Shota. Hey Izuku, long time no see. How was she already sitting next to this green bean? And why did he look like he was about to jump out of his skin? He was so jumpy. How was this cute? She liked men that she could respect. Ones that had confidence. Ones that weren't afraid to go after what they wanted. Ones that could pick her ass up and fuck her against a wall. This guy didn't look like anything. Joke. Shota growled, scooting away from her. He was glaring at both of them in an impressive display of aloofness. I'm not. Oh please, everyone needs a drinking buddy, right? Besides, it's been a while since I've met up with you two. Oh. Right, so this is Mokamiji, she's Vernon, Endeavor's sidekick, right? Izuku spoke up. Kind of, he mostly mumbled it. Did he just not have a backbone? Yep. The one and the same. We're here for some good ole recreational drinking. Amy signaled for more beer again. Say, Mo, has Endeavor ever mentioned Izuku to you? Huh? This skinny-looking nerd? It looked like he was floating in that sweater. No, I don't think he ever has. Why? Oh, thank God. Izuku placed a hand on his chest and deflated with a huff. Well, you see, Izuku is one of Shoto's teachers at UA, and I'll bet money that Izuku is his favorite teacher. Amy leaned in like they were whispering, but her voice was as loud as ever. She even nudged Shota. Right, Shota? Izuku is everyone's favorite. Shota took a sip of his beer, looked at Amy, looked at his beer, and then took a big healthy gulp. He's a great teacher. He's the reason why Shoto uses his flames now. Izuku turned bright red when she looked at him. This guy? This guy was the reason why Shoto was using his flames now, and that's why Endeavor would be talking about him? I hope Izuku begins. Nah. I'm actually surprised you don't know. It was on national TV and everything. Hold on, I have it on YouTube. Amy wiggled in her sleep searching for her phone. Shota pulled out his phone and switched it around. I have it saved. Man, you really are an Izuku fanboy, how eraser? It helps motivate Shoto in class. The fuck are you two talking about? Mo asked, looking at the two. Okay, there had to be something completely stupid between the two of them. Like they weren't dating, but they were acting like they were practically married and 2 weeks from being divorced. Maybe beer really was dangerous. What? Izuku's eyes went wide. You're not going to. Shoto. That was Endeavor's voice calling from the stands. It looked like it was the sports festival. She didn't have a chance to see it because they were expected to pull Endeavor's weight while he was taking time off to watch his son. Which was fine. But why were they showing her this? That's it? You're finally using my fire. With that you can. A shoe almost hit Endeavor in the head and Mo almost spat up her drink. Who the fuck was that stupid? Would you shut the fuck up? Wait, that voice. The camera moved over to show Izuku. He looked a lot better in a dress shirt and a vest than he did in a thick sweater. A lot better. He actually looked fit. Not like heroic fit, but still pretty fit. She eyeballed him. How did she not see that before? And his balls must be fucking huge. Absolutely gigantic. Because clearly he wasn't an idiot, and those were the 2 requirements to standing up to Endeavor so callously. Don't you see what you're doing? You're making things worse. Izuku's tirade continued as he marched up to the very stunned and very angry-looking Endeavor. It looked like her boss was trying not to kill him. Izuku stopped right in front of Endeavor and glared up at the man, both of their chests heaving. Then Izuku tore his gaze from Endeavor and grabbed onto the rail. Shoto. Don't you listen to him. It's your quirk, remember? And you're going to use that quirk to become a hero, right? A hero like All Might. You still want to be a hero, right? The video stopped. Oh god, I thought I was going to die. Izuku leaned forward, head in his hands. Mo looked at the guy and felt something in her. Something that wasn't just a beer or the bitterness of the day. It was, holy crap, did she respect this guy already? That was like, super rare. Maybe Emi was onto something. Alright, that last bit was for sure the beer talent. Still. Holy shit, Izuku. She grabbed onto his shoulder and pulled him into an awkward half hug. His face went beet red at the action, and redder still when his elbow touched her boob. That was fucking amazing. For you to be standing up to Endeavor like that. Just holy shit, I completely misread you. Come on. Let's get drinkin'. Cheers. Emi banged their glasses together. To a night of drinking and fun. The beers flowed freely. By the second round, at that table, Mo was starting to see the connection between Emi and Shota, mostly because Emi was leaning on Shota, giggling and touching him, and he was letting it happen. By the third round they faded into the background, she was rather focused on Izuku. So, how'd you get to be a teacher at UA? That's pretty snazzy. She gave a soft hiccup and finished a bit more of her beer. Izuku's sweater was soft. And since when did she start leaning on him? Did she really drink enough for him to become so attractive? Or had he always been that way? Like, you must have been a pro before that, right? What did you do? Actually, his cheeks were red, it really made his freckles stand out, like cool spots on a lake of lava. I'm quirkless, so I. Holy shit, really? She let out a laugh and scooted closer to him. You waltzed up to fuck Endeavor without anything to back you up. I'm starting to like you more and more, Izuku. Come on, one more round. He nodded. By the fourth round, she was vaguely aware that neither her nor Emi would be going back to her place tonight. Emi because she was going to be at Shota's. And Mo because, well, she would have been staying at Emi's, but now that the house key wasn't going to be around for too much longer, she had a decent excuse to go to Izuku's. By the fifth, she was certain that by the end of the night something wonderful was going to happen between her and Izuku. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time, till then, sayonara.